Thank you very much for the kind introduction, and good morning to everyone. I'm very delighted to be here. So, this was our Christmas present from the New York Times. I mean, really, we used to be proud that we weren't San Francisco with its income inequality and unaffordable housing. Now we have Seattleization. Yes, Seattleization is a thing, and according to the Times, it's a particularly dire diagnosis and was characterized by high housing costs and tech wealth, a combination that rapidly and thoroughly transformed the laid-back, polar tech-wearing city that we knew and loved. In so many ways, Seattle's an amazing success story. Thriving and economically vibrant, drawing thousands of people from across the globe. When you think about the great American cities that have fallen on hard times, Seattle really seems enviable. So, what's wrong with Seattle? We were the hottest housing market in the country for several years. We were creating about 1.6 jobs for every one housing unit, which caused our housing prices to rise dramatically. Because housing is people's #1 cost, we tend to focus on it. But almost everything in Seattle is more expensive than it used to be. We rank near the top of the cost of living index for everything from cooking oil to car repairs, from a trip to the dentist to yoga classes. Now for Seattle, this yoga increase is very problematic because we could absolutely lose our zen. So, okay, cost of living, housing, maybe it's the traffic that went really wrong. We entered the top 10 list of cities spending the most hours in traffic last year, and that's not a top 10 list that we actually aspired to. And if that wasn't bad enough, we had a big headline that said our traffic was ranked among the worst on earth. Although you gotta love LA, the once and future king at #1, always, and you will be happy to know you are number 303. So, we love, also in Seattle, we love our Lyft and we love our Uber, but they really have had an impact on congestion. Seattle taxi cabs did 5.2 million trips in 2012. This year, Uber and Lyft are on pace to provide 31 million trips. That's a lot of car trips, especially in our downtown. A recent report by the San Francisco County Transportation Authority estimated that Uber and Lyft were responsible for more than half the increase in traffic congestion there. Freight delivery also is a problem due to online retail. Between 2005 and 2015, the global number of parcels delivered increased 128%, due in part to consumers, that's us, increasingly buying single items at a time that are delivered to our home. That's why Seattle and a number of cities are talking about congestion pricing themes. So maybe it's the pervasive disruption of construction that we have. Seattle has had the most cranes of any North American city since 2016. Here's a map of downtown Seattle. Each one of these dots is a development project. Blue are completed, orange and green are under construction, the rest have permits but haven't started yet. There are 224 projects working their way through the pipeline right now, 65 currently under construction. Okay, we wanted this growth in downtown because we lost 20,000 jobs during the 2008 recession. But now downtown has 292,000 jobs in downtown. Okay, here's what a rendering of what all that planned development, all those dots would look like. It's going to be a very different downtown. So, maybe it's the housing costs, maybe it's traffic, maybe it's all those construction trains that make everything so tough. But many people think, here's what's wrong, really wrong with Seattle, too many tech bros. And they can be really annoying. Walking into traffic, texting on their phones, clogging up the coffee shops, driving their Lamborghinis around downtown. So what happened? Seattle, we're known for our quality of life. We have a stunning natural setting, surrounded by the water and the mountains. And personally, I'm a big fan of growth. I grew up in a depressed industrial town. I know what decline looks and feels like, the lack of hope, the lack of opportunity. It's a reason why kids leave as soon as they finish high school, just like I did, because there aren't any jobs. So I will take the challenges of growth every day. But not everybody is happy with this level of growth of pace and change. Lines are longer at Starbucks, buses are crowded, familiar landmarks are disappearing. Your neighbors are different. Across the street from me, Amazon Alexa, Amazon credit fraud, and down the block is Google, Microsoft, Adobe. It used to be all blue-collar folks. So I'm here today to talk to you about what happened, what we tried to do to keep Seattle a great place to live, and it's not as bad as the media says. Okay, and I want to talk to you about what you can do to keep growing your economy while keeping the great quality of life you just heard all the speakers talk about that you have now. So you're thinking, oh yeah, that crazy growth, we aren't Seattle, that won't happen here. Well, this shows, and the people who have talked, I wouldn't be too sure. These are some recent headlines I found just by looking on the web. And an international real estate company identified Sacramento as one of several hidden gem startup-friendly cities that are going to give Silicon Valley a run for its money. So it looks to me like change is coming, and you want to keep your city growing and prosperous. So our two cities are actually more alike than you might think. European settlement is relatively recent for both of us. We both have a long history of settlement by indigenous peoples. The Sacramento area was originally inhabited by the Nisenan, and we stand on their land today. European settlement in Sacramento began in 1839 when John Sutter arrived downtown. European settlement in Seattle was a decade later when the Denny family arrived after a pretty harrowing trip from the Midwest. We both had a gold rush period. And to understand the culture of both of our cities, actually, you have to appreciate that both Sacramento and Seattle were rowdy places, full of successful miners, bent on spending their money in gambling and dancing halls. And for you, in 1848, James Marshall found a gold nugget, precipitating the California gold rush. And for us, our boom started in 1897, when the steamship Portland landed in downtown Seattle from Alaska, carrying 68 prospectors and what newspapers said was a ton of gold. Both our cities burned down. Sacramento had a big fire in 1852, burning 40 square blocks, claiming 13 lives. More than 80% of the city was reduced to rubble. In June 1889, an overturned glue pot in a carpentry shop started a fire that burned Seattle's entire business district. Both of our cities rebuilt, raising the street level, a whole level, to counter both fires and floods. In Seattle, raising our streets up a level had an additional benefit. The new gravity-assisted flush toilets that funneled into Elliott Bay no longer backed up on high tide. And we both have major highways that block our waterfronts. This is the Alaskan Way Viaduct on the right, an ugly wall between downtown and the Puget Sound. It is so loud on the waterfront you cannot talk on your phone. So two cities with histories in common. Seattle dealing with growth now, you about to have that adventure. So what can you learn from our experience? So Seattle's always had a boom and bust economy. But our recent growth, which got us dissed by the New York Times, is something else altogether. We prospered during the wars when Boeing was building planes, but in 1970 there was a downturn, and Boeing, who was the region's largest employer at the time, went from 100,000 to 38,000 jobs. And a couple of real estate agents with a funny sense of humor put this billboard up on the highway. This chart, there we go. This chart shows Seattle population growth each decade from 1960 to 2018. You can also see the tech boom in the last two bars between 2010 and 2018. But you just heard, in 2018, your population topped 500,000 for the first time and grew faster than any city in California. You have been discovered, and growth is coming here. The neighborhood that has been most impacted by growth in Seattle is downtown. This is a map of Amazon's footprint. The newspaper calls the South Lake Union neighborhood, where they are located mostly, just north of downtown in the office core, they call it Amazonia. The dark orange buildings Amazon owns, the light orange ones are developing, and the yellow ones are leased. Amazon occupies 20% of Seattle's high-rise office space, a larger footprint than the next 40 businesses combined. It's estimated that Amazon has generated over $38 billion in economic opportunity in Seattle. Excuse me. Amazon's growth over the past 20 years has changed the entire South Lake Union neighborhood. The before is on the left and today is on the right. Amazon's growing mass has also created a gravitational pull for other companies. More than 100 out-of-town tech companies like Google, Facebook, Apple, Disney, Airbnb, Uber, Snapchat, Zillow, Tableau, Alibaba, Tencent have all come to the region following Amazon's success in recruiting engineering talent, which doubled the concentration of tech for us in 3 years. The 2 vacant blocks you see in the 2018 photo, Google is under construction right now, adding 5,000 jobs. Your rail yards project reminds me of South Lake Union, ready to become the next downtown neighborhood. So these are the 2 newest Amazon high-rises and the biospheres, complete with the bird's nest. You can see their employees in the bird's nest in the picture. They say the concept for these spheres, which they won't release the cost of what it was, a lot, was inspired by the idea that workspaces full of plant life can make workers more productive, and they have 40,000 plants and over 4,000 species in the domes. Software developer is now the most common occupation in the Seattle area. More than 60,000 people are employed in that area, in that field in the region. Retail salesperson used to be our #1 job, and it still is actually the most common job in the US. Another interesting, remarkable thing about software developers in Seattle, 4 out of 5 of them are men. This is why downtown demographics really skew male. A lot of lonely, geeky men with very good salaries are in downtown, which might explain this sales proposition. This building is literally directly across the street from Amazon's headquarters, and they clearly see a business opportunity. So maybe you're thinking, okay, this is not going to happen here. But what if I said the next Amazon, the next Starbucks, the next Nordstrom might be in your downtown right now? A lot of our growth, yes, is due to Amazon, but Amazon's start was not auspicious. It started as an online bookseller in a crummy, tiny office spot in downtown in 1995. And here's the first book that they sold. It's The Fluid Concepts and Created Analogies, Computer Models for the Fundamental Mechanisms of Thought. Does that sound like a future bestseller? Total nerd-omania. The search for the Amazon second headquarters, HQ2, has been very interesting. When Amazon started in Seattle, it was an affordable city with lots of tech talent because of Microsoft and Boeing. The future now is with cities that have good tech talent and a good quality of life, and that is you. So here's the founders of Starbucks and their store in downtown Seattle. They were friends from the University of San Francisco and all learned coffee roasting from the founder of Peet's Coffee. The story is they drew the name of their new coffee company from Herman Melville's Moby Dick, Starbucks having narrowly beat out the second place contender, Pequod. Pequod? Can you imagine? Who could have predicted a couple of coffee geeks making lattes would become a huge multinational company? Okay, so here is Nordstrom. In 1887, 16-year-old John Nordstrom left his home in Sweden for the promises of riches in America. He arrived with $5 and not a word of English. He went to Alaska for gold prospecting, returned to Seattle, and opened a small downtown shoe store, and Nordstrom now has over 300 stores. In 2007, CEO Jeff Bezos from Amazon directed his team to expand in downtown because he believed downtown's vibrant urban street scene would help Amazon to attract the best talent. People all the time say to me, oh, Kate, isn't it so lucky Amazon decided to expand in downtown? And I'm telling you, that decision was not luck. That was a result of 60 years of hard work by the Downtown Seattle Association and the city to make downtown an attractive choice for an entrepreneur like Amazon wanting to expand. I believe that luck happens when opportunity meets preparation, and every city has opportunity, but not every city is prepared to capitalize on it. The next Amazon, Starbucks, or Nordstrom is probably in downtown Sacramento right now. How you make downtown the place that that company will choose when they begin to grow is what is going to determine your future. So here's what we did to make ourselves prepared when opportunity came knocking, and then what we did to deal with the growth once it came. So keeping good street-level retail was really a priority, and you guys are doing that pretty well. Retail is the sizzle on the steak for a downtown, or for vegans, the hummus on the carrot, whatever. It makes downtown appetizing and attractive. It's California, I have to go the vegan side. Retail everywhere is a tough road these days. George Romero's 1979 Dawn of the Dead was filmed in Monroeville Mall, which is now closed, in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, and it was a pretty accurate prediction of the future for malls. It is likely that 20 to 25% of all US malls are going to shut down in the next 5 years. Mall operators in California here are trying out virtual reality experiences to combat rising vacancy rates. And I'm not sure that's going to work. To me, the virtual reality customers on the left look a lot like the zombies on the right. The retail store decline has been compounded by the buying habits of millennials, which lean towards spending on restaurants and activities rather than in stores. Even in Manhattan, about 20% of all street-level vacant is currently vacant. So interestingly, Amazon's headquarters is only 6 blocks from Nordstrom headquarters in downtown Seattle. And Nordstrom is one of the few brands that is holding its own against the Amazon onslaught. Why? Nordstrom invested heavily in marketing, in technology, and improvements to its supply chain. Their online sales now account for 1/3 of their total sales. They say the cost of a sale in store is equal to the cost to sell online, which helps them to even the playing field. You're leveling the playing field here with your Innovative Dreamers program that gives retailers, entrepreneurs their best possible chance to succeed in downtown. Those kind of programs are essential because retail competition really is tough. Brick and mortar stores can no longer get away with being out of items because they estimate that 24% of all the Amazon sales can be attributed to customers who first tried to buy the item in a store. It's unclear where this competition is going. Walmart has at least one store within 10 miles of 90% of America, and in 2016, 95% of us visited a Walmart, compared with just 46% that bought something from Amazon. Increasingly, consumers are buying online and choosing in-store pickup, prioritizing the convenience of a product immediately instead of waiting 48 hours for Amazon to drop it on your porch. This could be a great opportunity for downtown retailers. So there's no magic wand on retail. You can't say, Alexa, no online selling in Sacramento. But we can control the environment, and we can make downtown so clean and so attractive, people want to be there, and provide a location where a good retailer can thrive. Your downtown Macy's is really well stocked and very attractive. You have some cool specialty shops and restaurants. It tells me there's great market opportunity here. This is a before and after of a major park in downtown. For many years, it was so empty, as you can see by the pictures, only zombies went there. The Downtown Seattle Association convinced the Parks Department to allow them to manage the park and have been activating the heck out of it. It takes a big commitment and time and money, but now this park's a destination for families and attracts women, which are the gold standards for a successful park. We had to overcome a lot of objections from folks who said we were just pushing homeless people out, but we were committed that parks, and actually all of downtown, is everybody's neighborhood. So after the changes, our homeless newspaper, which had been very negative, actually celebrated our work. The great news for you is the Cesar Chavez Plaza restaurant has come to a good start, but you could do more there. So coming up with schemes to attract more people in downtown is the goal. And what actually attracts people is kind of mystifying to me. Little kids doing art, I get, but watching ice melt, knitting sweaters for trees, these two events were really popular, and we will try almost anything. Also, to make that good pedestrian experience in support of our retailers, we determined we had to deal with the dead spots, the bad blocks, the drug dealing corners, the ugly blank walls. On the left is a picture of some brave musicians on one of our tough corners. This was not very expensive, just some paint and furniture. And the mural pictures from our website, The Most Instagrammable Walls in Seattle. Instagrammable walls are a thing. We are happy to help those selfie takers. You have the great Wide Open Walls project and a lot of cool murals. You could do this. As we grew, our foot traffic grew. Litter and trash increased. We had to renew our bid district and significantly increase the trash and cleaning program, and I have to admit, we're still not doing enough. And I can't imagine our downtown with, 45,000 more graffiti tags. That cleaning program is really critical. And for us, the program is also a training program for people coming out of homelessness, drug and alcohol rehab, or the justice system. Also key to our vacancy was convincing the sports teams to locate in downtown. A big congratulations to you. Your new arena and the surrounding development fits really nicely in downtown and is close to existing restaurants and shopping. For downtown Seattle, baseball, soccer, and football brings thousands of fans, and the fact that you can walk to a game after work is a major employee recruiting factor. It also helps strengthen our retail, giving extra exposure to stores and restaurants. Of course, there's a yin and yang to everything. Our success in bringing tourists and sport fans and employees downtown has increased our transportation challenges. So, transportation in general is one of the toughest things we had to deal with in dealing with growth, and some of the impacts we just didn't see coming. Last year, Amazon hosted about 900 summer interns, and it absolutely overwhelmed the Bus 70, an essential commuter connector route, and our transit agency had to pull resources from other routes and add 5 new bus lines. This is just one of the impacts our growth has had on transportation, and we were determined it was not going to put us in all-day gridlock, and despite the nasty headlines, downtown's doing pretty well on mobility. It's an economic imperative for us to get people out of their cars. Downtown Seattle is hemmed in by the water and a freeway and only has 6 north-south streets. We didn't have enough freeway ramps capacity. We didn't have enough road capacity if all the new employees we were getting were going to drive alone to work. We had to provide good options for people so they could choose something else other than driving. And the results of our efforts were incredible success. We added 45,000 jobs since 2010, and only 2,200 of those folks ended up driving alone to work. Employment went up, driving alone went down. So how did we achieve this mode split? One factor was the incredible residential growth in downtown, making it possible for people to walk to work. It's estimated more than 20,000 workers walk to their jobs in downtown, but there were many other factors. Our mantra was to focus on customer behavior and do everything we could to make it so convenient people would choose an option other than driving. Signs that told you when your bus was coming, an app on your phone where you can see the arrival times of all the buses at your stop. Did we support transit for carbon reduction? Sure, but the real reason was economic. Our businesses told us the bright millennials they were trying to recruit wanted better transit and bike options. Our property owners told us the tech tenants wanted buildings with good transit and good bike options. We realized the easiest way to make transit more convenient was to have more of it. We voted to invest more money in transit than any other city in the country, and it's really paying off for us. Here's what that effort gets: stunning change. Weyerhaeuser moved 700 people from the suburban campus on the left to downtown Seattle. They located close to a transit hub and dramatically reduced their single occupancy drivers. You saw our housing numbers earlier. People were moving to Seattle faster than we could build new housing, so costs went up dramatically. To counter this, we're going to upzone 27 urban villages across the city. Those areas colored in, looks like bluish, greenish to me, while imposing new requirements on developers to help affordable housing. Urban villages are places served by transit identified in the comp plan as focus points for future housing and growth, and more housing near transit helps get people to downtown jobs. We fought hard to get more people in downtown. During our comp plan process, we pushed for more density. Now more than 82,000 residents and 4,400 children call downtown home. More than 1 in 10 Seattleites live downtown. Despite the amazing growth, we still struggle with affordability. The city has 33% of the region's population, 15% of the land, and 56% of the housing growth. 82% of the apartments in the county are actually being built in the center city. Due to policies and land use patterns, multifamily housing is just not happening in the suburbs. Interestingly, in December, the Minneapolis City Council voted to eliminate single-family zoning and allow residential structures with up to 3 dwelling units in every neighborhood in the city. They abolish parking minimums and allow high-density buildings along transit corridors. And the private sector is starting to stand up. Last week, Microsoft announced $500 million for loans to developers to create workforce housing for middle-income families. The most important economic development project for downtown Seattle, though, is a park. As you can see in this picture, our waterfront is blighted by a double-decker freeway. In 2 weeks, a new tunnel for traffic will open, and that freeway is coming down. I'm bringing my sledgehammer. And we will build a beautiful park. By reconnecting downtown to the water and waterfront history, it helps to preserve Seattle's soul in the face of the enormous change that we are facing. This park will be a tourist attraction, but it will be programmed to attract local residents. I saw articles about your hopes to recorrecting to your waterfront. Sometimes in downtown, I think the only skill you need is persistence. The Downtown Seattle Association has been pushing this project since an earthquake damaged that highway in 2001. So don't despair if it takes a while, just don't give up. You advocated for Golden One Center for 2 decades. You know how to do this. So how do you prepare for your downtown opportunity, and what do you do to balance growth and quality of life? Focus, one, on the pedestrian environment. Make it a supportive place for a great retailer to thrive by keeping it sparkling, clean, and safe. Focus on activating your spaces, on events that bring people downtown. Fight hard to keep your major employers and to attract new anchors like Golden One Center. So also, focus on your single occupancy commute trips by making more transit, biking, and walking more convenient, and funding transit so people will choose that option. You saw that a lot of our growth happened in a neighborhood adjacent to the traditional downtown. That South Lake Union neighborhood was not well served by transit, and we are still struggling with that. You have an opportunity now to do better with the rail yards development. Start developing your transit resources now for that neighborhood. Get as much housing, just checking around the right one, for all of the income levels that you can get in downtown. As much housing as you can get, and be active in the entire city about density. Not only do residents reduce commute congestion and support your retailers, they're a strong and effective political advocate for their new downtown neighborhood. And stay the course on reconnecting to your waterfront. There's lots of data about how waterfronts have economic impacts on their communities, and it connects downtown for you to an important part of your history. Keep at it. You've had great success, but you are not done. The arena, your new retail, the housing projects is just the beginning, and your continued advocacy and support will be essential to protecting what you've created and meeting the new challenges. You're a cool city now. You're in the cool kids group, but you have to work to stay there. Don't just sit on your laurels. I've worked with about 60 or 70 downtown organizations, and people always ask me, what are the secrets to successful downtown revitalization projects? Well, I'll tell you, it's not about how much money you have. It's not about how good your economy is. I've seen successful programs without either of those. It's about leadership. Leadership like Kaiser Permanente, putting their new offices in downtown. Leadership like Ali Yousefi showed with his belief in downtown. And the leadership like Michael Alt has shown for the last 20 years. I was here 20 years ago, and there were a lot of challenges, but the promise of a great future, because we could see that you had smart persistence and creative leadership, and that was Michael. Congratulations to you. Why don't you join me up here on stage?